Am I my brother's keeper? I wanted to analyze these 5 words as much as possible off the cuff because it just occurred to me, and something I wanted to talk about in the past but never really brought up. This term gets thrown around quite a bit, and I believe it's a bit misunderstood, but I wanted to analyze it because I think it points to an important factor of our humanity, that we are all responsible to each other. Whether we want to see others as an enemy or not, every single person deserves respect unless they have lost that respect. We can't accuse other people of things, basically bearing false witness, accusing people of doing things they never did, nor just labeling people, generalizing people because they are a member of some group or a certain culture, whatever it might be. But we do it anyway. We do it all the time. But I think that specific term, of course, am I my brother's keeper? It's originally derived from, the Bible, and it pertains to when Cain killed his brother Abel, and he was asked by God where his brother was, and he said, am I my brother's keeper? So with this, it has an emphasis on guilt. It's a guilty response in a way. I'm not here to overanalyze the term itself, but rather get to the bottom of what I think it really means. And that is that each of us is responsible for everyone else around us and their well-being, and especially the weakest of us. And in this society, we tend to beat down the weakest and prop up the most wealthy and the most powerful. This is something that we see over and over through history. Never have I seen it as intensely as it is today. The way that now we celebrate billionaires, we want billionaires running our politics. Fine, so be it. We kind of blind ourselves to the intentions of those who their goal in life is to gain more power and to be revered and respected. So at the same time as we have to take care of the weakest, we also have to keep a mutual respect for those who are even some of the biggest slime bags in society. But because ultimately we are responsible to each other, but we tend to cast out those, a wealthy group may talk shit about the poor, and a poor group may talk shit about the wealthy. Religious groups may talk shit about each other, but ultimately, even if a person has a completely different viewpoint than you, they are a human being, and you are responsible to them in some way, at least some sort of a reflection or an understanding of where they're coming from and who they are. And I know people might not agree with this. I know some people would say, no, there are some folks out there who don't deserve the time of day, and they should just be wiped from the face of the planet. And that's fine if that's your opinion. I understand that. And there are times when I feel the same way. So I'm not going to say that you're necessarily wrong. There are times when I think life would be a lot simpler if certain people didn't exist. But then I ask myself, what are the conflicts that arise from these people doing what they do, whoever it may be? This could be the most extreme criminals to the worst politicians out there. The way that none of the governments care about the people. None of the governments are actually there to better the lives of the people. We have so much access to so many resources right now, more than any time in history. And we've brought so many people out of poverty. And overall, we're doing better as a world. But as individuals, there's more than enough to go around, and the way that we've implemented our policies turns us against each other. It makes us think that one party or the other is going to solve our problems, or that somehow if you vote for this guy, it's going to make everything okay, and if you vote for this guy, it's going to be the end of the world. So we have people who are convinced that, for example, there won't even be elections again, and other people who think that there's going to be a nuclear war next year. And meanwhile, I think that the real problems, the biggest problems we have to face, are ones that will come from a direction we don't anticipate. This could be anything. And if I try to make a guess, it could be a solar flare, it could be an asteroid, it could be a nuclear war, it could be a virus, it could be some unforeseen circumstance of the atmosphere burning up. But the point being that whatever happens, during times of peace, during times where a certain group of people feels relaxed, they tend to You would think that people would come together even more, but it seems to have an opposite effect. In other words, there's a certain amount of conflict which brings people together, and you realize that you have to take care of your neighbor, that you do care about each other. If you don't have any conflict, people tend to separate and think that they're better than others and don't need each other's help because they're doing just fine. But if there's too much conflict, then people start turning against each other because they're afraid everybody else is the enemy. But I think in general, during times of crisis, everyone realizes that they are their brother's keeper and that we are here to take care of each other, and that you should look upon every other human as a part of yourself. And maybe even that aspect of ourselves we don't want to see sometimes. And I think often when we poke at certain people or certain types of people, it's pointing, two fingers pointing directly back at us, an aspect of ourselves, a projection of some issue that we don't see within ourselves. But hey, I'm not going to get all psychoanalytical here. I just think being human is complicated, and that if we at least try to understand every person that we come across or meet, try to give them the benefit of the doubt instead of just hating them just because they're different. And I'm guilty of this too. I was just telling my wife the other day that all billionaires suck, and I have, a strength. I was like, all of them must have done something and stepped on somebody's toes to get that rich. I have no problem with wealthy people, rich people, $1 million, $10 million, $100 million. But when you get into like the $100 billion range, you're gonna fuck people over to get where you got, and that I just can't see. The Bezos of the world, the, Bill Gates of the world, and yes, even the Elons of the world, which Elon seems to have a fan base that reveres him as some kind of a hero, something I'll never understand. It came out the other day that he claimed to be like the world's best player of a video game, for example. And it was revealed by the gaming community that no, he didn't actually achieve that. Somebody else did, and that he played on their account. But he claimed that it was his account. To me, it's petty, but it's petty to the point of the wealthiest guy in the world is doing this to try to do what? Because he wants to be liked. Because that's what we all want. People just want to be loved. If you understand that aspect, you understand sometimes people just want to be respected, and they will do anything to be respected. And if you haven't developed a healthy respect with people for you through your actions and through your actual demeanor, then sometimes people feel they're only going to earn it through wealth. And that's why I don't hold it against people just because they're rich. It becomes a disease. It's just like a drug addiction or anything else, except it won't necessarily kill you faster. It'll just slow your demise. And you see that wealthy people are just as upset as anybody else in society. There's no escape from it. We all suffer in our own degree, and therefore we all need to see that in each other and respect each other. Just because a person has a lot of money doesn't mean they're happy. Hell no. But just because a person is dirt poor and lives in a hut doesn't mean that they're unhappy. And if statistical analysis is something that you're into, they've analyzed different cultures that have a lot less money and resources and found that, yes, poorer communities that, not poor areas of wealthier countries, but just poor areas, or what we would consider to be poor, where that's how everyone lives, they're actually happier overall. They have more time to do fun things and talk to each other and interact with their community. And meanwhile, here we are in the West, just hustle and bustle. Places like New York City, I would never, ever want to spend time in. Just have no interest in being in a big city, and I wouldn't want to work in an office building. I completely separate myself from that culture, and I have a lot of empathy for those who even work on Wall Street or in the stock market. All these people making money and screaming with their, well, nowadays you just throw AI on it, but you know what I'm saying. Everybody's got something that they're hiding. Everybody's got something that they're trying to become, and everybody's got something that they wish they were, and that they wish they could achieve. I think one of the most important things is to set goals for ourselves, and this is something I don't do. I was talking with my son earlier today about this. I said, of all the things that I do in my life, I've never really sat and labeled the goals of what I want in life. Why? Because we're scared sometimes. We're afraid we might fail, because I'm insecure just like anybody else. I have a certain level of confidence and a certain level of insecurity. And no matter how wealthy or poor you are, you're going to have that. And I think seeing that in each other and realizing that nobody's immune to it and that everybody struggles, everybody wakes up at 3 in the morning sometimes worried about shit, whatever it might be, that maybe we could start to be our brother's keeper. You know? Try to be a little more understanding of each other. And I think that would go a long way in today's society, because there's a lot of shit going on right now that could be resolved very quickly with understanding and seeing and looking into each other's eyes and really saying, you're another human just like I am. You're not a demon or a monster. You're just a person who's trying to get by. And there are some monsters out there, and they need to be taken care of. Don't get me wrong. Anyhow, those are my thoughts for the day. I wish you all well. Much love. Be sure, if you're new to the channel, to check out the podcast. It's called 15-Minute Free Thinking. And if you want to support the channel, you can do it on Patreon. I also have no other social media, no Facebook, no Twitter, none of that shit, because I think it's a big waste of fucking time. And I spend enough time making YouTube videos. So with that said, peace and love. See y'all next time. Be well.